Hi, everyone. I'm back with video 109 of 365. I'm Samantha, and I'm doing a video every day for a year to get over my fear of public speaking and social anxiety. And I'm also a therapist, and I love helping people remember who they are and create the life that they really want. And I get to do that with clients every day, well, about 4 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week, depending. And I love it. I just love my job. And I love doing these videos too. I'm getting used to them after 109 times. Today is September 11th, 2025. And I was going to do a different type of video, and I decided to do this one instead, just for today, and kind of give a little testimony of my own. And so, as we know, September 11th is a very hard day for many people. I'm sure you remember where you were, if you're old enough to remember, where you were the day that we had this tragedy. And I don't know about you, but for years afterwards, and even today, when I still think about it, it ignites a little bit of emotion. And so I should have done this video probably yesterday to lead into today, but if you're experiencing any feelings that are kind of, trauma related, because when you watch things like that on TV, or you watch traumatic things on TV or on YouTube even, or, wherever we used to watch things, I guess it was mostly TV, you can actually have traumatic symptoms, like post-traumatic stress symptoms from things such as that. And my first experience with something close to that was, I live in Oklahoma, and so we had the Oklahoma City bombing, which was about an hour and a half away from where I live. And so I was in 6th grade. I remember watching that live on TV. And then fast forward, I'm graduated high school in 2001. And so, just a few months later, here we go with 9/11, and I'm in my first college classes and walking out to the hallways where they've got TVs hung up everywhere. And I didn't understand what it meant at all until I don't even know how long later, days later, I finally understood what this was. And so anyway, my point is that, if you still have residual effects from watching or even thinking about 9/11, I know that I do. And it's just so sad. It always elicits just like all the sadness in me for some reason. It still does after all these years. It's crazy. So at times like these, definitely remember that, anniversaries of certain dates, even though they might not seem like that big of a deal sometimes, but you might have some feelings about it that you might be either suppressing or ignoring, or just kind of keep watch of yourself and make sure that you're doing okay. And just remember to take care of yourself. And so I wanted to also include this. I've never done this before, never told anyone this on a public forum, except I was on a podcast about a year ago, which I plan on talking again, hopefully on this podcast again, but about what happened to me. And so September 11th of 2005, which is 20 years ago today, I was drugged and sexually assaulted by a coworker's fiance at a safe home that was seemingly safe. And that's my anniversary that happened 20 years ago today. And I just look back at my young self, and it's just, I'm a totally different person today. But I remember how I felt, and I remember I couldn't look at myself in the mirror for a few days. It was very traumatizing, of course, in so many ways. And that to me was shame. I couldn't look in the mirror. And I won't go into the exact story of what happened. I will someday if anyone is interested. But it's just, that's what happened. And, I wanted to talk about how I felt so that I can hopefully help people who are going through this, because this happens, millions of times a day to people, unfortunately. And most of the time it happens to, I think it's like 90 to 95% of these types of assaults are by someone that we know. They're hardly ever done by strangers. And so we just have to be really careful about who we trust, of course, who we spend our time with, and check your drinks. I tell everybody, just even at a friend's house, it's sad that you might have to do that, but even if you're offered water, you might want to make sure that you pour your own drink wherever you go. Even at the bar, if you're there, watch the bartender, just really watch things, because you never know what could happen out there. And it's happened to a lot of friends of mine too, where they were drugged at various public places. And so just be very careful about things like that. I definitely want to talk to people about that in the future, just more on safety. But back to how it feels when something like that happens to you, it's just you feel so much shame. And I think that I carried that with me for a good while. And I just couldn't look at myself in the mirror. And that's when I knew that, something was wrong. But what happened is I really didn't take time to grieve. And I just went on and started working more and kind of just made it just be part of the regular life. And I just learned to kind of, I wouldn't say suppress the emotions, because I was in therapy, of course, but I just kept going and going. I was just always in survival mode. And I think that a lot of us live there. And so I definitely want to talk about survival mode more in the future, and how we can manifest our way out of those things, because that's what we're here for, is to have a joyful life. But when trauma happens to you, I want to let you know there's nothing wrong with you. That shame that you're carrying is just like this feeling that just naturally comes up, and we can choose to let go of it. We can choose to process it and know that this was not our fault. This is something that happened to us, and it's there for a reason. I remember going to get the exam that one gets after something like that happens, and of course you talk to a police officer, and then you go to the hospital and get the exam. And I was sitting there, and I would have been, I guess, like 20. I think I was 22. And of course, I had lots of sexual trauma in my childhood as well, in my family. And so this was just like, it almost felt familiar, which was very sad, but also not familiar, because I was an adult and I, quote, should have known how to protect myself, that sort of thing, even though I was, out. And so, but I remember God speaking to me. That's all I can say. I just heard this voice in my head that said, you're going to help a lot of people. And that was before I was a therapist. And that was before I had even gone to grad school for social work. So it was awesome. And I just knew that it was going to be part of something someday. And that's one leg of my business that I want to create, is to start some sort of charity for sexual trauma survivors. And so that's definitely a passion of mine. So today's video is a little bit different than normal, but I wanted to share a little bit of myself, because I'm a real person like everybody else. I do have feelings, even though we talk about manifestation and it might look like, oh, she has it all together and she's got it figured out. It took me a long time to get some things figured out, definitely. And I still have areas that I'm working on, just like we all do. And, but I will say, I'm the best version of me that I've ever been. And I think that these things just happen to us for definite reasons. They're for a benefit, for something. And they're all very personal. We can't judge each other on what the benefit might be for each thing that happens. But I know that when I received that thought that I would help a lot of people, well, that's exactly what happened, because a lot of my clients that I interacted with throughout the years had that sort of trauma. And I was able to help them and walk with them, because I had been through it too. And so it was just very important for me to have known how it felt, I guess, for me to be able to help them. That's just how I operate. So just know that there is nothing wrong with you. You can go through the worst of the worst and come out just amazingly well. And remember that you have the power to shift your thoughts at any moment. I did not know about anything law of attraction-esque Back then when it happened, I knew nothing. It was 2005. I had not started any of this journey for a while after that. And it was just very painful. It was very, very painful to go through that and not really know how to navigate as well as I do now. So that's why I want us all to pass along some of this information as we learn it to people. Just say, hey, did you know that you can actually tell your brain what to think? You don't have to let it control you all the time. I talked to a little girl about that today, and she was like, you can? I was like, yeah, you can. And so we just, you got to teach our kids these things, that it's so important to not judge ourselves and just notice where we are, feel our feelings, do not suppress them, because if you suppress them, they're not going to go away. They're there for a reason. They're there for something. Everything that happens to you happens for your benefit. Everything. Doesn't matter what it is. You get to find the gem that's in it. You get to pull that out and decide, what does this mean about me? What does this mean? Because back then, I didn't know this stuff. So I was not sure why that happened. I just knew I felt bad. But I also knew on the flip side that I would help people. So I did have some sort of meaning, but it came to me. It was just the weirdest thing. But it's like I knew that I was going to use it. And I sure enough did. And it's just been amazing really ever since. And it's just part of my story. It's not part of who I am. And that's really what I want to tell you, is that these things that happen, you don't have to focus on them forever. It's like, it's almost like it happened to another person, And according to Bashar, it did happen to a different person, because we are a different person billions of times a second. That's a whole other video, according to quantum physics. But I just look back and I'm like, man, I'm just a totally different person, because not only am I, older, 20 years older, crazy, but I just look at that woman that I was, that almost little girl still, and the hopes and dreams I had that were kind of taken that day, and how they got replenished right before the exam. It was like, you're going to help a lot of people. It was just a God thing. It was amazing. So just remember, you're not what happened to you. You are not that person. It doesn't matter what happened. You can decide to do something better than what you think you deserve. You deserve everything. You are everything. And you have to continue to tell yourself that. No one, and like my anniversary date today, I haven't talked to anybody about it. Not one person. So you guys are the only people that are going to hear about this today. So this was just something I wanted to share with my little community here. And I appreciate you guys for listening. And please feel free to share anything that you'd like to share as well. If you don't want to share it publicly, email me. I'd be glad to share back and forth with you if there's anything that you need to just get off your chest and just have somebody witness it, because they say that grief demands a witness. And when things like this happen to you, you definitely have grief. You're grieving the old you, and I'm not talking about the old you versus the new you that we talk about all the time. I'm talking about like that old you that you wish you could have been without that abuse or without that neglect or whatever the case is. You're actually going to be better than that, really, truly. But there is some grief that we kind of go through at times. So you don't have to be perfect. All these videos that I do, they're to uplift you. They're to let you know that you can decide at any time who you want to be. But also, we're still human. So we're going to experience emotions, and that is okay. And you're not going to be perfect every day at it unless you just really spend like 24/7 on this. You're not going to be like 100% perfect, because we're going to have things that we're going to have contrast. We're going to have, contrasting experiences that come up that are there to teach us something. So it's just a matter of, remembering that we are spiritual beings in a vessel of a body, and we're having an experience, but we also don't have to stay there in the doldrums of nasty thoughts at all, because we did come here to experience love and joy and peace and fulfillment and excitement. And so just remember, you can choose to change at any moment. You do not have to stay stuck where you've always been. You don't have to stay in fear. And we'll continue again to talk about all these things. But yeah, I just wanted to share tonight. I hope it helps somebody that might have needed to hear this. I don't know. I wasn't going to do this, but then it just kind of like came to me that I probably should. So I just decided to. And not only for you guys, but also for me. I felt like I needed to share it. I really did, to get it kind of out of my body. So I hope it gives someone hope out there, and also gives somebody courage to share their story, because I think it's really important to do that. So, well, I love you guys, and you guys have a wonderful evening, and I will be back tomorrow.